Hi everyone, welcome
Hello.
to another episode of Nerdy Dads. Got MJ here with a different hat. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your hat today?
Yeah, no worries. Hi, everyone. Hi, Dave. Yeah, so this hat says weaponized autism. So as I mentioned, in the previous videos, my eldest Andrew is in the spectrum, and like I like this hat. I saw this hat in ads, and then yeah, it meant something to me, right? Not just because of Andrew, but like it's kind of like a provocative way of saying that autistic people have gifts. So if you look at the internet, search for weaponized autism, you would see a lot of really great stuff that these people are capable of. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I'll definitely look it up. Thanks for sharing as well. Um, so I think this week we'll start with a big question, and it's a tough question,
Mm.
largely because things changes, and every now and again things change really quick. And I got a feeling that with 2022, the launch of ChatGPT 3, we're already seeing a lot of new jobs that we've never heard of before,
Yeah.
right? It also changed a lot of the way that we currently approach, existing jobs.
Yeah.
Like as developers, we large language models has actually helped so much with our coding practices, right? I can just pick up something. Instead of me trying to think about certain things, I'll just default to, hey, give me this. I know I can work it out, but I'm just going to be bothered right now. So things like that. And with Nerdy Dads, I think one of the main objectives is actually helping to actually prepare our kids for the future.
Yeah.
So, and the future is kind of, I think
Unclear.
2040 is a good year, like 15 years away. We're not talking about 50 years away, but we're not talking about like 2 or 3 years away because that's quite predictable as well. Um, so 15 years away from where we are now, and just want to get your thoughts, MJ,
Yeah.
about um, what are you seeing potentially will be some of the trends? Are you seeing more jobs out there in the world? Do you think there will be less jobs out there? Maybe we'll start with that big
Yeah. I think
big question.
yeah, and another thing as well for the audience watching or listening, right? You and I, Dave, we came from, like a tech background, right? Like, and we're in this industry as well. So that's why, in a way, we're kind of like always almost in the early stages of, technology with where things are, and then now, we're talking about 15 years. I just have to look back. What was it like 15 years ago? So 15 years ago, I was literally, that was the time when I started probably one of my first professional careers. I just graduated from uni at around that time, and you know the, the technology was there already, right? The internet was there, databases were there, applications were there, web applications were there. It's just that mobile wasn't a thing yet. It's just kind of like getting started. But when I say mobile apps, but like people are using cell phones already at that time. Um, and so, but then it's not yet to a point where we are now in like it's just the default, it's just the norm pretty much, right? And within that 15 years, many things in the technology happened. Things like cloud happened, mobile happened, social media happened, the good and the bad and the ugly, right? The big data come in, the AI V1 came in. Like when I say V1, more like the first wave of like computer vision, machine learning, so on and so forth. And then you mentioned
Yeah.
2022, ChatGPT, and so on and so forth. So that's why if you look at 15 years, you'd be astonished at how much happened. But it's if you look at it holistically, it's more around like these technologies exist already 15 years ago. It's really just about the adoption, right? Of like, more of the adoption and the proliferation, or whatever that is, and the development of that ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like looking back 15 years, like my feeling is things like if we talk about the job market, we look at the major industries, there hasn't been much changes. iPhone, was it is it iPhone 3 at the time? Or I can't
Yeah,
remember the
maybe,
first
yeah, something
iPhone.
like that. Yeah.
It hasn't been released at that point. Facebook maybe at least wasn't big. What wasn't huge at that point. We don't have all the other social media stuff. So what do you feel like? Do you think the next 15 years will just be a repeat of the past 15
Okay,
years?
yeah.
What do you
So
think is gonna?
that's okay. Now let's talk about the future, right? The next 15 years. Uh, okay, let's talk about two things, right? One, what would be the hot jobs and what would be like jobs that are still in there, and then probably what jobs would probably be a little bit obsolete, right? So for me, I think we've mentioned already, like the engineers, the teachers, educators, and stuff like that. They'll still be in there, right? As kind of like in the middle, right? There, there's no stopping with that. But what would be the hot job? I think would be entrepreneurs or business people who are leveraging a lot of these AI technologies, right? I think like the scale of producing value, producing outcome with AI, that's really gonna be hot, right? And I think even 15 years from now, that's gonna be a norm, maybe, right? Like analysts, like you don't just work with Excel spreadsheet anymore. You need to work with AI systems. You need to work with AI capabilities. Like maybe right now and 15 years ago, the role of analyst would be looking at numbers, crunching numbers, processing it in their head. And now they've outsourced the processing into Spark, into into technologies. But maybe the next iteration of that is more around like getting closer to the business, understanding the business, and how the outcome helps the business. Right. I think that's really the hot market in 15 years time. For me, those who are leveraging these awesome AI tools and capabilities to yeah, solve business problems.
What kind of business problem, like, do you feel it will be similar business problems? Are they going to
Um,
be like new
yeah,
business problems in 15 years?
I think it's a problem of scale that's going to be solved, right? In 15 years. So what that means is that, what when you have a solution and you want to deploy it, back then, right? 15 years ago, you have to do it in a region by region basis. So the locality needs to be present. Meaning, hey, if I want to teach a course about mastering Excel, then I can only do that in, let's say, my area and maybe the capital city as well, and become a teacher or something. And then when internet happened and like, with the influencer blah 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 happening right now, you can now teach that almost anywhere, right? You just upload a video and everyone can buy that course. But then 15 years from now, maybe that course would be very specific, that like it's very bespoke to individuals. But at the same time, the amount of effort to produce those is not that much, right?
Do you think the AI will be advanced enough in a sense to create a course, and not
Yeah,
just
yeah,
in like
exactly,
one
right.
language, you create it in multiple languages? Do
Yeah,
you think it can be
exactly.
like
So
further customized to the individual
yeah,
as well? Do you
yeah,
feel like
I think so
that's
too, right? But then at the same time, there's still human and humans in the loop or in. Someone needs to still verify that, okay, what the AI is doing is correct. There needs to be an architect who's gonna design the course curriculum and like what sort of like content needs to be published out there here and there, right? So I think again, it's just about the scale, right? That's like whatever we're doing now, whatever kind of like business problems we're solving right now, it's just a matter of scale, in terms of distribution and volume, right? Um, but then that's one aspect of it. Then there's the other aspect I think would be also very like on demand. We're in like, but then who's gonna fix my plumbing, right? Who's gonna fix my roof? Who's gonna do this if like someone's already doing that? So I think there's going to be a power balance of a lot of this digital stuff would be centralized, and if it's really valuable, it's like distributed globally at scale. But then there's still a lot of those services and a lot of opportunities that can really only just work in a decentralized manner. Meaning, the plumber here in Austral, New South Wales, can't be a plumber in you know um, Mississippi or Charlotte, right? Like, uh, you know what I mean? Like there will be those two tipping scales of jobs, right? Like the locals who can only just perform it just for the base of locality. And then there are like the globals, but they're competing in a very competitive space, but at scale, right?
yeah, that's interesting way of looking at it. So the local jobs, that's a lot of them is being, well, some of them it's just hard to automate.
Yeah,
Like we've seen some really fancy stuff from the robot day
Tesla.
from Tesla recently, and there so there are definitely a lot of improvements. I think the other company, Boston Dynamic.
Dynamics, yeah.
Yeah, they've got some really impressive robots as well. We've seen a lot of drones being used in the war recently. So there's been a lot of things, but like when it comes to plumbing, it's one of those areas where there's a lot of local regulation requirements.
Yeah.
There's a bit of the skill set, like every pipe is going to be different. So and you also need to deal with the owner as well, et cetera, et cetera. So that may or may not be a area where it can be easily automated, and as a result, it will probably like remain local
Mm.
or for longer.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's why I think for our children, right, in 15 years from now, my advice would be you either go global, like big global, highly automated, highly, AI driven shenanigans like that, or go big on local. But work on local stuff that's really needed in that local area. What that means is that I don't consider being tech savvy as a skill anymore at that point in time, right? It's like everyone knows how to use a tablet, or everyone knows how to use a computer somehow, right? That's already a given because they were born in this era. Now, what sort of like skills do they need? I think business entrepreneurial skills would be number one, really. I think like the concept of demand and supply, the concept of, you know, um, providing value to customers, whatever that means, right? How do you make money? How do you earn money? How do you save money? How do you invest money? And like all those stuff. I think that's very, very useful. Um, eh, w- Time and time again, right? It was useful 50 years ago. It was useful 500 years ago. I don't think that's gonna be less useful in 5,000 years from now. Um, yeah,
So these are skills. So regardless of whether it's local oriented or global oriented, so it's about that having that business mindset, add value to the customer, and be able to actually handle money smart in a
yeah,
smart way. Most of the smartest people in the world is working on something to get people to be addicted to, right? Whether it's like short video, social media, or
televisions, newspapers, right?
games, yeah, Netflix, things like that. So that's where a lot of the smartest people in the world are working on. So and as a normal person, it's really hard to resist that, right? Because
Yeah,
they're not really just hacking. They're just hacking the human brain, right? There's
yeah,
limited
and it's a
things that
society-wide adoption, right? It's not just like your peers, listening to K-pop. It's like everyone's doing this, right?
yeah, yeah, and that's I think um, I'm hoping though. So with um, well, I actually like what Elon has been doing on the business front. I don't necessarily agree with him on a lot of other things,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like he has really pushed. Like I came from an engineering background, and I really have a lot of respect for him about like that drive towards producing something, creating something. That whole engineering mindset. I really do respect that, and I do hope to actually see more people actually coming
yeah.
back into that side of the world, creating something that's actually useful rather than just focusing on entertainment and get people to actually spend more time on. So if there's something that I can kind of guide my kids towards, other than the fact to steer them away from some of the addictive behaviors, is to kind of guide them towards a more kind of, like, hands-on, create something or mend something, right?
Exactly. So yeah, I think engineers will still be very well regarded 15 years from now because they're producers, right? They're the builders. So whatever engineering concept that is, whether you're building a house, you're building an app, you're building, an infrastructure, you're building a bridge, right? Yeah, I think that concept would still be very, very, important 15 years from now. You can't just outsource that to AI. Like AI would help, build that engineering process faster, but a well-crafted engineered work is still well-regarded engineered work, man. Like it's like just like looking at diagrams, presentations, right? You would still see and you would still know who are the good, who really place an effort on this, with or without AI. Yeah.
Yeah, and just the pure satisfaction of creating something useful, like there's fun, there's pleasure, there's suffering, there's a whole package. I did like I still enjoy that aspect of things, which brings me to the next question about whether the current education system is
Equipped for what's to come in 15 years. Yeah.
yeah in 2040, right? Like
Yeah, that's a good one, man. And I think because you and I, again, this is the precursor of what I just mentioned earlier, right? Because we know where things are going and we know the new stuff and all. That kind of like gives us some knowledge of things. Like maybe my kids doesn't have to go to college. Maybe that's the thing, right? Like considering inflation 15 years from now, maybe college is worth $500,000 each. Um, and I
yeah,
have two kids. Does that mean do I have to spend $1 million for their education in 15 years? Um, or again, that same principle can be applied, right? Like, would you spend that $1 million for their education, or maybe use that to support them in other ways to find those craft, find those businesses maybe that they might be
yeah,
interested in doing. Um, yeah, that's just how I see it, right? Like, because of the change in the world, I mean, there's still value in education of the networking aspect, like learning how to learn, like committing, the concept of commitment that I'm willing to commit for 4 years of my life into something. There's still, merit in doing that, but if it's just monetary and value alone, um, yeah, I might not go full in, man, with like a half million education for my kid.
and and you're talking about the uni degree,
Yeah, uni degree. Yeah, yeah,
and then but like even the high school and middle school is kind of so high school is kind of preparing for uni, right? And then middle school is kind of preparing for high school to a certain degree. So that's the end goal. A lot of time is to actually get into uni. Um, but my concern is just that if like we're already feeling a bit of gap right now between what uni teaches compared to what the job market actually wants. For certain things, certain jobs, it's not so much like a big gap. Like, if I
yeah.
want
I
to go
think,
nursing, I go
yeah,
to uni, I become a nurse. That's all good. But in technology, for example, like you go to uni, you learn, you know, um, JavaScript or whatever computing language, and we know already that a lot of them can be done handled by large language models. So what should the person actually focus on? And 15 years later, it will probably be a completely different story as well. So that's what bothers me a lot at the moment.
again, like this is me overgeneralizing things, right? The market would be changing pretty much, right? That like again, the on-demand nursing has changed to an on-demand IT, and the on-demand IT is now changing to on-demand AI. There will be like the hot markets, right? Um, but for me, the children and individuals, there will be interest and there will be like passion and profession, and then there's the concept of like, what do I want? How do I make money? Am I driven by money? Am I driven by this? Am I driven to change the world? Am I driven to really, what's this, what's that, right? I think each and every individual, regardless of time, will have a drive of their own, right? And you're just very lucky if you land into an industry or position or placement where you also make money along the way, just like where we are at the moment, right? I'm very fortunate that my drive for computer software and stuff like that landed me to a lot of opportunities, and I can build up on that, make money out of it, provide for my family, buy a house, so on and so forth. um I think there's going to be a lottery aspect of that with individuals as well 15 years from now. So that's why it's going to be challenging as well. Like, for example, if the market is saying, hey, go AI in 15 years and like do prompt engineering because that's the hot job market, but the kid doesn't want to do that. They want to do, maybe an archaeologist instead,
Yeah,
studying
yeah,
about dinosaurs.
yeah,
Then how do we balance that, right? Um, yeah. So again, that's a problem before. There's a problem now. I think it's still going to be a problem and a conundrum in the future. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I guess the other thing about the job is, our parents' generation, they have one job and they kind of stick with it, or one professional to kind of stick it for much longer. Whereas, you know, in current generation, so we're like, you know, for us, the jobs kind of go, okay, I can actually switch between jobs, and, you know, I can change my career, maybe even a couple of times during those productive years. So, do you think that trend is going to continue? The
Yeah,
jobs
of
is going
course.
to be more fluid into the
Yeah,
future, that, you know, they can just switch between different jobs much easier.
yeah. And I think there will be concepts of like micro careers, right? Like meaning I spent 6 months being a chat GPT fine tuner for this project. And then after 6 months, maybe I move company, maybe I move jobs, but I'm doing, let's say, either still the same stuff, fine tuning, blah, 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 or maybe I'm doing things like now I'm analyzing, petabytes worth of data about this particular sector, still using AI. So yeah, like, that just kind of like where I see it, wherein like it's a project to project point of view, that it's not just about the profession anymore. In like, but again, right? Again, if you're a doctor, you're still a doctor, but like you can now you can now expand those as where the market is going. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of skill sets, I do feel like one of the core skill is to how to actually collaborate with AI. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what
Yeah.
do you do,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it sounds easy, but
Yeah. It
like
sounds easy, but like,
it's and when like you actually try to collaborate, sometimes it can be frustrating when it doesn't, you know, give you what you want, or it doesn't understand you. Um, well, so if that's going to be the core skill set, you know, what do you think can actually help kids
um,
right now to actually
yeah,
learn or develop that skill set?
it's nowhere different from like how it was, 20 years ago, right? When I first learned HTML, right? Like, oh, HTML is easy. Just got the notepad, type, less than HTML, greater than HTML, then, oh, just write this code, and then there you go. You have a web page. But then that web page, what's that web page for? What are you trying to do with that? Like, oh, okay, now you have to learn CSS for styling. Now you have to learn JavaScript for some logic. And then that's not enough. Now you have to learn a framework because of the different behaviors, so on and so forth. And that's what we're seeing with AI at the moment, right? We saw the HTML moment where like, oh, it's pretty good, like creating simple stuff. And then, okay, but if I want to do that, now I have to learn this. Now, if I have to do that as well, I have to learn that as well, so on and so forth. Um, I think it's just a matter of exposure, experience, and I guess there might be a portion of talent as well, aspect in harnessing AI. That some are just better than the others because the way they articulate it is, better than the others. But just like any instrument, right? Like others are just born to really play the guitar, but someone who works hard playing the guitar can still beat that talented person, right? But if you mix talent and hard work and exposure and market commercials and support from your dad and support from your family, everything, then that's when you really become successful, right?
Yeah, yeah, interesting. And for the last question, I'll probably come back to the first question that we started, is whether there will be less jobs or more jobs. And I'll give you my view on this as well. So, autism, for example, we don't really understand it, right? Regardless of how much we okay, we can recognize it early, but do we really understand like what's actually not necessarily causing it, but, you know, what's happening in the brain,
Mm,
right? Is it something more? Is it something less? Like, what's like, there's so many things that we actually don't understand about ourselves. There's so many things we don't understand about the universe, which is much broader. But,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, there's, you know, when you look big, when you look small, when you go to, like, we understand human, generally speaking, but individual human, we don't really understand that well as well. So my feeling is, my hope is that there will actually be more opportunities with AI, with our own personal assistants, multiple of them, all specialized in different areas, that will actually allow individuals to actually explore, you know, what the person is actually interested in, right? and just getting that infinite patience and guidance and be able to actually, explore together with AI, and help actually make the world a better place. That's what I'm hoping for. But many things could go wrong. But I
Yeah.
hope there will be more jobs, and there will be solving jobs that's more satisfaction, to actually, because it actually solves bigger problems, for
Y- y-
human. Yeah. So
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, part of me also agrees with that, Dave. Maybe there's also just an aspect of me thinking around, there's that money aspect, there's a market aspect, there's a sales aspect, there's a aspect of the value and like pain points and like because I'm in that headspace at the moment, right? That's why I'm thinking about that. Um, but yeah, like obviously as parents and as individuals, you want to make sure that your needs are met, like you have enough money to survive, really, like not just survive, maybe thrive as well. Make sure you're comfortable, you have you have a house, and maybe you have a car as well. Maybe you can also go to vacation from time to time. Yeah, I think that part of me is something that's still in here, like I can't just remove that, that I have to look after that. And but then let's say in 50 years time, not just 15, right? Like if that thing isn't a problem anymore, people, work writing code because it's fun for them. Yeah, I want to go that route. Yeah. So I think I want to see that future where more jobs are created, but more creative jobs are created. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's quite, judging from history, that's quite possible. Before the Industrial Revolution, everyone is farmers, and the Industrial Revolution really took away a lot of jobs, but it also created a lot of jobs. And if you look at us right now, there's way more jobs. People are, like, generally speaking, much happier than before. But I have to call out that transition has been extremely painful. It's we went through a famine, went through a lot of very cruel stuff, 2 wars, and to get to where we are now. So I don't know if this technological change is going to be as big as the industrial revolution. It's really hard to judge when you're actually in that space. It could be just another hype. But yeah, if it is, I think yeah, there's definitely a lot of things as parents that we're concerned about. We'll definitely try to help the kids, and it's really hard to actually know how. So I think that's where the channel becomes beneficial as well, because we're all in this together. We're all
Yeah.
struggling. So, and it's a big topic. We'll probably come back to it at some point in the future as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think yeah, it's a bit tricky to talk about this because one, we're not really futurists. Second, we're basing it as techno dads, as nerdy dads, right? Um, which I think, is still merited based from what we do and what how our lives are going, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Like, like technology is everywhere. It's technology for a lot of sports stuff as well. So it's not necessarily restricted to just, technical stuff. It's about how to actually apply tech to the kids' growth, whatever he or she chose or the parents prefers. Yeah, cool. Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
thanks everyone for watching. I hope you picked up something. You pick up something from us. If you like it, please like. If you comment, please comment. Let us know what you think. And if you want us to talk about something else, let us know.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, MJ. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
See you next time.
See ya. Tell me you got that recorded, right?